Hey everybody, Dog8798 here. This is my top worst video games list, and the very first video game I'm going to start off with is Muscle Tag Team Wrestling, which of course is based on the Kinnikuman franchise, and it was released for the NES back in the 80s. And I had high hopes for this game. I got immediately excited when I saw this game listed on Wikipedia, and I downloaded it using the software Ultraman, and I played it, and the game was terrible. The gameplay just really wasn't that good, and while the graphics were good, the character sprites, in my opinion, were terrible and were poorly designed, and it just really wasn't that good of a game. I think the modern day Ultimate Muscle games, Ultimate Muscle, Path of the Superhero for Game Boy Advance, Ultimate Muscle Generations, and Galactic Wrestling, all for the Game Boy Advance, GameCube, and PS2 respectively, are way better. And I thought other fighting games around this time in the NES era were actually pretty good. Were actually better than this, but this one right here was terrible. The next game on this list is Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriot. Okay, I don't know anything about the Metal Gear Solid franchise, but I think Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriot sucks and is one of the worst games of all time. This game focuses more on story than gameplay, which means you get a lot of long ass cutscenes and just a couple of minutes of gameplay, and I think that sucks, and the story just really isn't even all that good. The AI is stupid. None of these awesome stealth elements people praise would they work in real life. Like in one mission I ran past two soldiers and they didn't even see me. That wouldn't happen in real life. And the combos are some of the weakest and worst combinations of punches I've ever seen in a video game. The only thing good about this video game was a couple of boss battles. And the final boss battle between Snake, the main protagonist, and Ocelot, the main antagonist, was one of the worst boss battles I've ever watched. I've ever seen, played, watched, whatever. It was boring. It was a ripoff of WWE SmackDown vs. Raw '08 and UFC Unleashed, which are two of the worst fighting games ever. Why couldn't they rip off a good fighting engine like Mortal Kombat, Tekken, or SmackDown Here Comes the Pain? But no, what's his name? But of course, most of my hatred towards the Metal Gear Solid franchise is actually not even towards Metal Gear Solid, it's towards this game, and IGN rating this game, overrating this game, giving this game nines, tens, despite criticizing the gameplay. But because the graphics and story are good, the gameplay gets a 9 and 10. Then taking games from the past like Alter Beast and reviewing them today and giving them low scores because they so-called don't hold up today, and I'm sick of that garbage. Next game on this list is Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I was hugely excited for Marvel vs. Capcom 3 when I heard that it was returning, but then I saw it was only for PS3 and of course the Xbox 360, not even a Wii release. So I had high expectations for the game. I expected new gameplay, new everything. First off, it was the same thing with slightly different controls. It was the same thing from the previous generations of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and an even crappier roster. It just was nowhere near as epic as it was back in the day. We've seen it. You can't shock us anymore. We've seen all these cool versus things like Cyclops versus Bison, Ryu versus Spider-Man. We've seen Venom versus Zangief. We've seen all of that back in what's his name. Then you have Mike Haggarid here, which was pretty cool. One of the only cool things about this game. But you don't have Zangief in here. Then the game was glitchy, And the 3D models, in my opinion, suck. I thought the 2D animation, the 2D comic book animation, shell shaded graphics, the fifth and sixth generations had were much better. And finally, the game only had two modes: a video game, a fighting game. In this era, with only with only two modes, I think that is lame. If it was for PSP, that would be okay. If it was for PSP, that would be okay. But this is supposed to be for the Xbox 360 and PS3. Then that brings me to the next problem I had: the price. This game was $60 when it was new, and it's still $30 to $40 today, and which I think is stupid. Then finally, they had the nerve to later release an update with more characters, and some of these glitches supposedly fixed when those glitches should not have been there in the first place. Marvel vs. Capcom 3, easily one of the worst fighters I've ever played, and easily one of the worst fighting games of this generation. Next, SmackDown. The next game is WWE SmackDown vs. Raw '08. This game was terrible. The first SmackDown games, SmackDown 1 all the way to '07, were pretty awesome. But this gameplay, they changed the controls around. They made the gameplay even slower. The punches and kicks look weak. The only reason you even play this game is the soundtrack and the roster. And WWE was pretty. I thought 2007 was a pretty good year for WWE, but this game was terrible. Then the next one, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw '09. In my opinion, not only was this game misleading, this game showed an awesome tag team match between wrestlers Kennedy and Randy Orton versus Matt and Jeff Hardy, the Hardy Boys. They showed an awesome trailer with those four guys wrestling. They made it seem like it was this epic fighting game, but it was this epic, fast-paced wrestling fighting game, but it was nothing like that. The gameplay was slow. It was pretty much the same gameplay from the last game, '08. It was slow, it was boring, and the roster. The only thing good about the game, once again, was the roster. And IGN, once again, just like with Metal Gear Solid 4, overrating this game. This game, despite criticisms towards the gameplay, AI, and everything else, this game, because of its graphics, and because the IGN guys love WWE, this game still gets to maintain its high 8 score. And and I thought this game sold a lot of money, when I thought TNA Impact, which was also released around the same time this game was, deserved more money, and deserved more praise, because that game had its problems, but it was way better than this, and it deserved to beat WWE. This is one of the times TNA really deserved to beat WWE, and they didn't, and it sucked. The next game on this list is Thor: God of Thunder. This, of course, was released to tie in with the Thor movie from 2011. The Thor movie was awesome, but the video game was nothing like the movie. It was a broken, slow version of God of War. The punches and action weren't nearly as exciting as the God of War video games. The action. Then Thor, his flying sucked. It was nowhere near as epic as the flying we saw in the movie. And this game, because the movie was popular, when this game came out, this crappy game was $60. And next game on this list is Superman 64, the infamous Superman 64. Tell you the truth, I heard this game back in the fifth generation. Never got a chance to play it, but I wanted to play it because I was a huge fan of the Superman animated series, and I always wanted a Superman beat 'em up would have always been cool. But this game was terrible. I saw the Angry Video Game Nerd reviewing this game, and his review was hilarious, but the game was terrible. The one of the first missions is to fly through a bunch of loops. Why couldn't it just be a Superman game where Superman flies around, punching and kicking people and fighting in boss battles with the bad guys from the comic books in the animated series? But no, they had to make it complicated. The last game on this list is Iron Man. Once again, just like with Superman, taking something that should be easy and simple and just making it complicated. The Iron Man video games, Iron Man, I've never played 2, but Iron Man 1, with the PlayStation 2 being the worst version ever, Iron Man should have been a video game about Iron Man walking around and flying and fighting bad guys from the movie. And since this is a movie-based video game, adding with more stuff from the comic books. That sounds simple, right? No, this game was boring. The flying really wasn't that good, and the action sequences in this game was terrible. And the PlayStation 2 version, and I love PS2, the PlayStation 2 version had the absolute worst graphics I've ever seen. The 360 and PS3 versions have good graphics, but the same terrible gameplay. Well, this was my worst video games list. Like I said, I'll do another list talking about some overrated video games, but this was my worst video games list. If I forgot any video games, feel free to let me know in the comments. All right, Doug.